Hello, hello. We are live. The countdown is finally done. How's everyone doing? The first .NET Maui Community Toolkit monthly stand-up is upon us, and I think it's before we dive straight in, we should have a little round of introductions because we are new on this brand new channel. Um, .NET Maui is new. Everything is new, basically. So why don't you? I see the little order here: Brandon, Andre, Pedro, Javier. Let's just go that. I'll go last. So Brandon, kick us off. Who are you? What are you doing?
Thanks, Gerald. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Brandon Minnick. I work as a developer advocate at Microsoft. A longtime Xamarin, well, used to be Xamarin employees, but also a longtime Xamarin developer. Got a couple apps in the App Store. I do a bunch of open source stuff on my own. And about a year or so, yeah, joined the gang working on as a maintainer on the community toolkit. And yeah, now we're pushing forward with the .NET Community Toolkit, but we'll tell you all about that in just a couple minutes.
All right, awesome. Andre, tell us all about you.
Sure. Hello, my name is Andre. I'm a software development engineer currently working at Amazon Web Services, but yeah, do a lot of open source stuff regarding Xamarin. And actually, I guess I'm with Xamarin Community Toolkit from the beginning and continue do a lot of cool stuff.
You absolutely are. You absolutely are. Because, before that, you probably know Andre. He doesn't need to introduce himself. He has all these amazing controls that he's been putting one by one in the Xamarin Community Toolkit right now. And that's also part of the reason why we asked him to be there from the beginning. Because, Community Toolkit, hello, we want the community to be in this with us. So that's why we also have Pedro. And all these people, I just realized that now, have also been on the Xamarin show, the Xamarin Community Toolkit edition. So, that's you should know them from them. Pedro, who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing?
Hello there, I'm Pedro. I am a mobile developer, work with Xamarin. I work at ArcTouch, and I do a bunch of open source things, and I am a member on the Xamarin Community Toolkit. I joined the team a little bit after the restart of the project. It's good to be here.
That's true. That's true. I think we started with a little different group because everyone you ask is like, yes, I want to do this. But as it goes with community work, it's all done in the after hours, in our free time, in our spare time. So some people had to drop off because of it's still a crazy situation in the world with where you don't have the bandwidth either in time or emotional bandwidth, whatever you got going on. Doesn't matter. We totally understand. So we started out with a little different group, but this is where we ended up with now, and who knows what might happen in the future. But of course, the one person that we can count on is Javier because he's always there. Javier, who are you? What do you do?
Hello. Well, my name is Javier. I'm software engineer working at Microsoft in the Xamarin Forms and now .NET MAUI team. And I think that I'm part also from the beginning from the Xamarin Community Toolkit. And now I'm really, really, really excited about the upcoming stuff and the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. And here we are, our first community stand-up. Yay!
Yes, yay. So, and then I'm the last one left. So my name is Gerald. I started out on the Xamarin Forms team. I'm now working on GitHub Codespaces, which is also a fine product that you should check out. But, I always stayed connected with like my Xamarin roots because before that, I've been active in the community for a long time. A lot of blog posts. If you've been working with Xamarin, I bet you that you've seen at least one of them. And now with Xamarin Community Toolkit, working on the actual product. So I stayed with my Xamarin roots by having this product a little bit on the side, trying to organize all the things. And now we have this awesome group, and things are basically organizing themselves. But so what is going on? Because we started. So let's get a little bit back here. We started with the Xamarin Community Toolkit, which is what we have now. But there is also the Windows Community Toolkit. A little bit more about that later. But what we're doing with the Xamarin Community Toolkit is actually a couple of things. So it was kind of born out of Xamarin Forms 5 being the last version of Xamarin Forms. At that time, there were a couple of experimental features, like I keep forgetting at least one of them. The media element, I think, the expander, a couple of more. You probably know the
C#
ones that I'm
markup
talking about.
extensions.
C# markup extensions. Thank you. So a couple of those, and we took those into the Xamarin Community Toolkit because it would be kind of weird, right, that you would have Xamarin Forms 5, which would see no big features, but it would still have experimental features. So the experimental features were kind of, they were going through it. The team was going through it like, hey, this one is good enough. We're keeping that one, but these, they have to mature a little bit more. What do we do with it? You could have just taken them out and you could not use them anymore, which is, not what we do. It's not like we hold that carrot before your nose and it's like, now you can't use it anymore. That's not who we are. So then we invented the Xamarin Community Toolkit. That was just one of the things that we tried to do. So we took in those experimentals for you to enjoy, just change that little namespace, add the NuGet package, and boom, you're done. So that was one thing. The other thing is kind of like, especially like with the converters, you have these converters. They're usually not that big for your example stuff or maybe behaviors or effects. And what you tend to do, what I know I did, is you implement it in one project and then you're like, it's too small to wrap it in its own library, right? So I'm just going to copy this, paste this to this new project where I also need it, maybe change it a little bit, tweak it a little bit, and suddenly you have two versions. And then exponentially, you will have a lot of converters and stuff going on, and you don't know which is the actual version that you want to have. So that's also something that we wanted to do, like combine all these converters, all the behaviors, all the effects into this library. So it's your one-stop shop library for all the things that you might need, in addition to, Xamarin Forms, Xamarin Essentials, all the awesome stuff that's already there. That's kind of what we wanted to do. And, of course, also take in new controls. So not just the experimentals from Xamarin Forms, but also in the meanwhile, between Xamarin Forms 5, only getting service releases, and now November 2021. Can you believe it's almost November already? We're going to have the .NET MAUI bits. It's cool. But, it was a long time away then. So we were going to, take new controls, new features that we could add to Xamarin Forms so that it would still have some development and you're not just waiting anxiously for .NET MAUI to come. So that is what we have been doing basically up till now. And now we have. Am I gonna spoil that already? Yeah, let's just do it. So what we're doing now is also with, like I said already, we have also the Windows Community Toolkit. So at some point very early on, because I invaded their namespace kind of a little. I'm just going to admit it here on stream. Some things happened, and suddenly I was kind of in their namespace area, and to avoid confusion, that was not great. So we fixed that early on, but that also made us happen the initial connection, right? The initial connection, like, hey, you're doing the Windows Community Toolkit. We're using XAML. Xamarin is using XAML. So we probably have some overlap. The Windows Community Toolkit has other awesome stuff. It has, I think, some MVVM framework. It has also a lot of converters already. Cool controls, too. So they were following kind of like the same pattern as we, right? They were doing this together with the community, already well known, doing this for years. I think not just the community, but also with like the partners and whatnot. So they're doing great things. So we said, like, hey, we want to work together. We want to, we both work at Microsoft. Microsoft is a big place, but we still want it to feel small to the customer, right? That you just have this one thing, this one unified feeling, this one place to go to. But that was just not the right time. So we went our separate ways at that time. But now with .NET MAUI, we have this new time in place where we can, see if we can connect to each other. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So I think a few weeks back already, Brandon, who we've just seen, has written a beautiful blog post. We'll go over that in just a little bit more detail. But what the gist of it is that at least the long-term future for the Xamarin Community Toolkit is going to be the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, and actually it's going to be Community Toolkit. So it's going to be Community Toolkit.star.wildcard, because it's going to be Community Toolkit.windows, Community Toolkit.maui. Who knows what might happen? Community Toolkit.blazor, anyone? Maybe that's in the charts.
Any volunteers?
So, yeah, any volunteers, exactly. Is yours for the taking. So, but we're going to start with these two, and we're going to come with this common package where we have all of our shared code. And then from there, we're just going to see how things will play out basically with like our controls, our converters, where we have overlap, what we are going to integrate and whatnot. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we've been doing. I think. Did I miss anything?
Whew. No, I think that pretty much explains it. I think the big, well, good thing, nice thing, bad thing, and the reason why we're doing the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit is there's obviously breaking changes between Xamarin Forms and .NET MAUI, and so it's also just happened to be a really good time to unify together with the Windows Community Toolkit team, where we have breaking changes because of .NET MAUI. There's Project Reunion going on that's going to unify a lot of Windows APIs, but also introduce some breaking changes for them. So we're able to take advantage of painful breaking changes to unify, come together, and yeah, we'll be showing off all that fun stuff in just a bit.
Exactly. Yeah, so let's just switch over to my screen for a little. We got this new GitHub organization set up, which is the community toolkit. I was just remembering that I wanted to say something, but I forgot. So kind of like what you said, Brandon, the reason that we're doing this, so we have been having meetings with like the Xamarin Community Toolkit gang, who are the people that you're seeing here right now, in private, because, we were just talking about progress. It was very boring. You didn't want to see it. But now, we are doing this out in the open. We have this stream. We have this, community, right? Like I said, it's been about the community all this time. We want you to be involved. We also want you to be involved in the progress reports that we're doing here, the PRs that we are looking over. You can interact with us, like, hey, you can find out why we like a certain PR, why a certain PR might need a little bit of work. So we're going kind of over all these things, and there will definitely be time for questions. I think the other people, while I'm just filling the time talking, that's what I do, they're just going on in the chat, so it will be great. Just fire your questions. I think we have some dedicated time at the end to go over them as well. So yeah, and now we have these meetings out in the open, like a lot of other teams are doing as well, and that's kind of the reason that we're doing this here too. Okay, so back to what I was showing, we have this GitHub organization here on screen, where you can find everything now about Community Toolkit. So there's 18 repositories already. Together with, if you are also a user of the Windows Community Toolkit, then also there's going to be some name changes and stuff there. I think that is already in motion, or maybe even finished. I don't know. But yeah, so here we have the organization, and you can see all the repositories that are part of that. We also have added the MAUI one here, and we're catching up on the Windows Community Toolkit. You can see it here, 4.4K stars, and we're at 89. So watch out, we're coming. So that's what is going on here. You can see all the lovely people that are a part of that. And yeah, you can follow here along what is going to happen with all the community toolkits. Actually, I see here a spot here with my little ID maui.markup. I think Brandon is going to talk about that in just a little bit, because that is one of the features that we took from Xamarin Forms. We took that into the Xamarin Community Toolkit because a lot of people seem to like writing their UI in C# with this extension methods. So, we're going to take those also over to .NET MAUI. Yeah, we got all the repositories here. And if we go into the MAUI one, we're busy setting up the CI. See, important stuff first. There's not a lot going on here yet, but yeah, we are definitely going to ramp up here. One thing to note, you're already watching their channel. So this is all part of the .NET Foundation. So the Windows Community Toolkit, the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, and the Xamarin Community Toolkit actually has also been part of the .NET Foundation. So the .NET Foundation, actually, Brandon, maybe you have a little, or anyone else, but I don't expect the others maybe to, not that I think low of you, but I think Brandon knows best how to explain this thing.
Like, what is the .NET Foundation? Is that the question?
Yeah, kind of.
What are we all doing here? I mean, so the .NET Foundation, and I can't take any credit for it, but it's been set up by folks to essentially forever maintain those essential .NET open source libraries. There's a lot of them out there, like I can think of like Refit, Poly, the Xamarin and Windows Community Toolkits that we rely on for our apps. And a lot of these libraries before the .NET Foundation came along were just individual developers like ourselves who worked on them in our spare time. And the question was always, what if that person can't maintain it anymore. What happens to this library that we all depend on? So that's where the idea for the .NET Foundation came from. And the idea is, let's give both funding and time to these amazing open source projects so that they will continue to live on forever. Like if it's in the .NET Foundation, you can be pretty confident adding it to your app and not having to worry about, well, what if the maintainer goes on vacation, or what if the maintainer quits programming and retires? Because the .NET Foundation's now got it covered.
Well, I think that explains it all. So that's great. Yeah. So on this website, .NETFoundation.org, you can find, all the sponsors, all the members, all the projects that are underneath this kind of umbrella thing. So it's really great. They also have a list of all the .NET meetups all around the world. So if you want to, follow them along, a lot of them went virtual with the whole pandemic going on. So you can now join them all across the world, which is great. There's all kinds of stuff here. So go follow that. It's a really great initiative. The .NET MAUI Toolkit, I'm still juggling with the names here. Sorry about that. Is a part of this now. So that is great as well. I see actually a question kind of comment that I wanted to go into here, because someone is mentioning hey, my concern is with the documentation for the .NET MAUI toolkit, or actually already for the Xamarin Community Toolkit, which, is kind of valid, I guess. We have, for a couple of controls, actually the controls that we got from Xamarin Forms, the documentation is pretty good, because those were written by the docs team, because it was Xamarin Forms feature. So we have to have the docs for that. But for the Xamarin Community Toolkit, we tried to have the docs, and as the person mentioning this also pointed out, hey, I feel it's the responsibility for the person that wrote the feature to also write the docs, which is true to some extent. I definitely feel it's their kind of responsibility. The kind of problem with that is, and this is totally my personal opinion, is that not all people are native English speakers. They can write code, because code is transcends kind of the natural languages. We can all understand that, but not all people are confident enough or feel confident enough to write all the docs for the feature that they're implementing. So that's definitely kind of a problem that we have, and also the reason why we are kind of behind on the docs. I've set it as my goal many times to actually get it done, but you know how it goes with documentation and tests. Who needs that? No, this is just fun, of course. But also Michael Hawker, he is from the Windows Community Toolkit. He's already pointing out hey, we enforce that we have better ways to do that, at least in the Windows Community Toolkit, and we are going to work together. That's where we definitely benefit from the collaboration with the Windows Community Toolkit to make that part better. So that's definitely something that we're going to do better, hopefully.
Yeah. And actually, along with that, I'll fill everybody in on some work I've been doing internally in Microsoft. I've been working with the docs team to get basically, there's the .NET docs, so the official docs.microsoft.com/.NET landing page. That's where you can find all the docs for anything .NET. So we're working on adding our Community Toolkit docs there. So we'll be moving the Windows Community Toolkit docs to there, and we'll also be setting up the new .NET MAUI Community Toolkit docs there. And like Gerald hinted at, if in the future, if somebody wants to create a Blazor Community Toolkit, their docs can live there as well. But the nice thing about that is being on the official docs.microsoft.com, and specifically being in the .NET docs, they've got really high standards. So that was something they made us agree to as part of coming into this docs org, is that the docs have to have certain quality and maintenance, and we said yes. So no pressure, but yeah, we also plan on improving the docs as well. So, but keep us honest. And if you find things, all the docs are open source as well. You can always edit it. You can always open a pull request to the docs. And yeah, we're talking about, the Windows Community Toolkit enforces that new features. Yes, you write the code, and yes, you have to start the docs. We're going to keep that enforcement going too. And like Gerald said, helping them along the way. So maybe you're not a native English speaker. That's okay. We can help as well, as long as you help us get it started. You're the expert that opened the pull request to write this amazing control. At least get us started, and then we can tweak some minor grammar things. Don't worry about that. But we're here for you, and the .NET Docs team is here for it too. So should be all good things.
Well, the docs are going to be fixed. I hear it. All right. So in the meantime, and then I'll just quickly go over this and then I'll stop talking. I pulled up the blog post by Brandon, who you've just heard, and he is explaining everything. We should probably get one of those URL lists going, right? I'll paste it in here for now. But here he explains like all the things that are basically going to happen. So first, some facts. 80 plus contributors, 250,000 plus downloads, used in over 500 open source GitHub repositories. So that is already amazing, right? For a project that has been running for not even a year, I would say. I actually have to check what's our anniversary. We need to celebrate that.
I think V1 was just January.
That's crazy. That's
that or 2020? Oh, I'll have to look it up.
Okay, look it up. Well, I'll fill the time. But yeah, so that's crazy, and in just a matter of months, basically. And that's also like, if people would ask me early on, like, what's going to happen with the community toolkit when .NET MAUI comes, I would typically say, like, I don't know. We'll see about that when that actually happens. I feel there's always room for a toolkit, but we'll see. Which is not, a answer that people accept. And that's absolutely, that's their right, because keep us honest, like Brandon says, because, what I fail to realize is that people would take this in, would come to love the Xamarin Community Toolkit, and also more importantly, probably, is that they would become dependent on it. So, or their project would become dependent on it. So if they would want to move to .NET MAUI, then they would need the features that are inside the Xamarin Community Toolkit. And now suddenly we are the blocking factor of you moving to .NET MAUI. None of that. We don't want to do that. So we decided now we're going to have a .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. In fact, we're going to have three community toolkits. 3 kind of flavors. So we'll have the Xamarin Community Toolkit that is, the one that we have today. At some point in the very near future, I think, Brandon, we're going to kind of cut off like the new features. We might be talking about that in a little bit, because we're going to follow kind of the same time path as Xamarin Forms. We're going to kind of cut off new features. And from that point on, we're also going into kind of maintenance mode. So we're going to release bug fixes, we're going to release stability fixes, and we're going to support it as long as Xamarin Forms is supported as well. So until November 2022. That's when the support for Xamarin Forms ends. That's also when the support for the Xamarin Community Toolkit, like the thing that we have now, is going to end. So, no worries for some time to come. There will still be like bug fixes and that kind of stuff. Then we're going to, alongside that, we're going to have the same toolkit with the same features. Let me scroll to kind of like the relevant part here. I don't know where that is actually. Sunsetting. See, there we have a couple of dates. See, this is handy. So together with that, we are also going to have a Xamarin Community Toolkit, which is compatible with .NET MAUI, because .NET MAUI has this kind of way to still take in Xamarin Forms code, kind of, and work in a .NET MAUI application. So you could still use your renderers, because that's the thing in Xamarin Forms, and it will still run without a problem in .NET MAUI. You will just have to, as a library maintainer, you will just have to change a couple of namespaces. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to have the Xamarin.Community Toolkit .MAUI compat, I think. Here we go. Yeah, we have it. And so we're going to have pre-releases actually in this month. Wow, that's amazing. No, I didn't. But yeah, so that's kind of the plan for that. And then alongside that, we're also going to have the brand new Community Toolkit.MAUI, But for that, like I already said, like we also have the Windows Community Toolkit now. So we're going to have to figure out which code is overlapping. And there might be some things that move to kind of like a common package, or maybe that's already there. So, there's going to be some shifting and puzzling on like where are we going to put our code, and what makes sense to still have in there, or what doesn't make sense to have in there. So definitely expect breaking changes there and stuff to be changing. But this is also kind of like a brand new package for a brand new platform, right? So that's going to be your .NET MAUI native community toolkit, and that's going to be the long-term future. I think that kind of sums it up what we've been doing so far.
Yeah, and just to elaborate why we're doing these MAUI compat libraries. If you haven't played around with .NET MAUI yet, and you're a current Xamarin Forms developer, if you want to port your app to .NET MAUI, the first thing you do is you remove the .NET Forms, you remove the Xamarin Forms NuGet package, and .NET MAUI is actually included in .NET. It's what we call a .NET workload. So basically remove Xamarin Forms, add in .NET MAUI, and then you can move forward with, you'll mostly have to change namespaces from Xamarin Forms to Microsoft.MAUI. And so for these libraries, for the Xamarin Community Toolkit, you won't be able to just add the Xamarin Community Toolkit NuGet package to your .NET MAUI app. They're different namespaces. They just won't work together. So what we're doing with these MAUI compat libraries is we're essentially copy pasting Xamarin Community Toolkit and removing Xamarin Forms, replacing with .NET MAUI, updating the namespaces so that you can drop this right into your .NET MAUI app. So if you are upgrading from Xamarin Forms, my recommendation is to, well, first on your side, remove Xamarin Forms, add .NET MAUI. And then if you are using the Xamarin Community Toolkit, just remove that NuGet package and replace it with the MAUI compat NuGet package. And then that'll at least get you started, because there's no breaking changes aside from Xamarin Forms to .NET MAUI in the MAUI compat. Whereas in the new .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, there will be breaking changes. Like Gerald was discussing, we're going to merge some features with the Windows Community Toolkit. They've already got an awesome MVVM library, so we're not bringing any MVVM stuff into the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit because there's already a library for that. And so there will be breaking changes between Xamarin Community Toolkit and Community Toolkit.MAUI, but there won't be any breaking changes between Xamarin Community Toolkit and Xamarin Community Toolkit.MAUI compat. So that's kind of your first step in upgrading your app. But the MAUI compat library will still use the old Xamarin Forms architecture, custom renderers. Those are going away in .NET MAUI because they're slow. So in .NET MAUI, they have these things called handlers, which are better, faster implementations of renderers. And so we're going to be using only .NET MAUI handlers in the .NET MAUI toolkit, so to keep it nice, performant, and fast. So long story short, eventually you'll want to upgrade all the way to the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit if you're coming from an existing Xamarin Forms project, but there will be breaking changes. So because of that, we have the MAUI compat to at least allow you to move to MAUI without having to break or change anything from Xamarin Community Toolkit.
Absolutely. That sums it up pretty nicely. So I think, we're already, what time is it? Yeah, halfway. So let's quickly go to more important stuff. And I think, Pedro, you have some highlights for us in terms of issues, PRs, that kind of thing. So I'm going to stop talking for a while now and let you take over.
Sure. So let me share my screen here. Let me zoom it a little bit. Okay, so the first issue that I want to highlight is this XAMLC error. That is kind of common issue that we have because our custom XAML scheme that we use on our library. So you may see this error saying more or less something like this, and cannot solve type, whatever, could be any control. But you don't need to care about that because that will not stop you to build and deploy your application. This is just a tooling issue that we are trying to figure out how to solve with the right team. So if you see this, don't worry, don't be alarmed. It's all fine. Just press F5 and you should be able to build your application.
Yeah, it should be. You should be just be able to ignore it. So it's an issue in the tooling, I think,
Yep.
which is kind of annoying because it shows up as an error. I think I haven't really confirmed it. I think what might help is you can still use like XML NS, then your little identifier is, and then add the full namespace. I think that makes the error go away. To
Yeah.
actually add the full namespace in there instead of like our fancy short URL one. So if you really want to get rid of this, just use that as a workaround, and it should be all okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Also, another issue is about our MVVM thing inside the Xamarin Community Kit, that when we port this to the Maui Community Kit, we will see what that's overlapping with the Windows Community Kit and try to solve that. So if you are curious about it, you can just follow this issue. It's the 190 issue. And here below, you can see the conclusion of that conversation. But yeah, just to let you know that we may have breaking changes on that area.
And
so
we did
sorry.
add a lot of stuff from that library, from James Montemagno's MVVM helpers. So
yeah,
things like asynchronous commands and observable ranges. We did bring those in. So don't look at it like we closed this and didn't do anything with it. We did, I promise. But yeah, for .NET MAUI toolkit, we'll have a separate MVVM toolkit.
Sure. So talking about measured PRs, we have this PR from this guy that I don't know. Just kidding, the Android. Fixing his touch effect inside the scroll view. So if you're having any problem with that, probably this is on our latest release, I believe. But if you don't, you will have that soon. Also, we have this another pair from Gustavo Oliveira. He is very active on this repo. Thank you for that, Gustavo. And this pair is just to fix a crash on flash mode on iOS, if I'm not wrong. So no more crashes for you when you try to turn on or turn off your flash on camera view. Another one from Andre also thinks the touch effect, the dispose exception. This is a normal exception on Android that we have seen quite often. And Andre just did a fix for that. So check that out. We have now corner radius on toasts fixed by Vlad. He is the author of the toasts and snack bars feature on the community kit. So he's always doing an amazing job fixing bugs and implementing new features that community wants. So if you want any new community on this control, feel free to open an issue and we'll take a look on that as soon as possible and see if you can make that happen before going to .NET MAUI. So we have this another amazing feature that is a text switcher implemented by Andre. And as you can see here on the GIF, it's a control that we can animate how we will change the text, label text. So it's really easy to use. It's just put the control there, configure minimal stuffs, and we will have this beautiful changing effect here. Okay. Another one is related to the media element implementation for the Mac OS, made by Yuri, I think. I'm sorry if I spell your name wrong. But yeah, this is amazing. Now we have this media element control on Mac OS as well. So far, if I'm not wrong, we have this control implemented for Android, iOS, and UWP. And now
and
Mac OS.
Tizen.
Tizen as well, yeah. Forgot about that. Next one, we have this Tada animation. This is kind of merged, but it's not on our main branches. That will be the main developer branches. Me and Sean Lawrence are working on that to make that possible. So the idea here is that we have pre-built-in animations, complex animations that you don't need to do a new animation class and do all the commit stuffs. We will have like a animation object and to just use it and can reuse in a lot of views. So as you can see here, we have this Tada animation. When we click, we have this fancy animation on the control. So probably we will have this on the 1.3 version. So we are working harder to make that happen. Okay, also we have this another one that is a very important one made by this guy here. Oh, it's Brandon. That is about the upgrade to the Xamarin Forms dependence. So we have some breaking changes here, some edge cases about how we can, or versions that you can use. I think Brandon can talk a little bit more about this one.
Sure. Yeah, basically, and it's so silly, but Android, like the Android official libraries had a typo in one of their namespaces. I forget the namespace off the top of my head, but it was something with accessibility, and they spelled accessibility wrong, which is also really ironic. So they fixed the typo in a later version of their Android X library. But once you take a dependency on that new version of Android X, then it breaks your code. So we had some code that relied on that Android X core accessibility library. And when Xamarin Forms, in the latest release of Xamarin Forms, they updated all their Android X dependencies. So we had to also update all our Android X dependencies. And so the new version of Xamarin Forms kind of broke or introduced a breaking change on the toolkit. So it's silly. It's all because of that accessibility namespace. But yeah, if you are wanting to use the latest version of Xamarin Forms, you have to use the latest version of the Xamarin Community Toolkit. The previous release of Xamarin Community Toolkit 1.2 just won't work with Xamarin Forms. You'll get build errors, and it's silly, but yeah, it's all because the Android X library team had a typo.
Sadly, that happens. So moving further, we have now open PRs that will be the features that we will add soonish on our library. This one is the UTC to local string convert. That is a feature, it's a convert that you can convert your date time offset, sorry, or your date time, and put that on a string. So you can do that all inside your XAML. You don't need to do any fancy C# logic to convert those these time zones and the strings as well, the string format. So pretty straightforward. We have this another one from the Gustavo. Oh, actually, I did not give the credits to Leonard for this one. Thank you, Leonard. I think this is the first PR from him, so welcome, or second one, I believe, and hope to see more. Another one from Gustavo. This one is fixing another bug on the camera view. That is the shutter command is not responding after you do a lot of photos. So there is a certain number that you pick photos on the camera view, and after that, that stops to work. So the fixes will appear in the next stable version. We have this another PR from Asvin, I believe. And this is to add the speed property to the media element. So, if you want to do a PR and that is not related to create a new control, you can just add a new feature inside the existing control. So it is what Asvin did. So he's just add this speed property, and now you are able to control the speed of the video that you are watching on the media element control.
I think really quickly, Prado, so I think we're probably going to adopt some of the practices of the Windows Community Toolkit there as well, because, we love all the features and we would love to take it all in and just say, yes, merge, do all the things. But, it would probably be best if you go, because I see a lot of people just being enthusiastic. Yes, I want to contribute, which is awesome. But it would be good to open an issue first, see if the feature makes sense. We can talk about it a little bit, like, hey, should we maybe think about doing this? We have a little bit of experience on the community toolkit. You have a little bit of experience on how you actually want to use it in your product. And we need to find a way to kind of combine those two knowledge areas and come to a solution that works for everyone, instead of, just taking it all in and making it work for your project. I know that's what you want. That's what I'd want. But, we have kind of like a bigger audience that we have to serve here. And, just jumping into that PR makes it hard for us to say no, because we've seen that you have put all that hard work already in there. But, we are going to say no. If we don't like it, we're good at
Sometimes.
sometimes. But you can save all that time and effort and put it elsewhere, or spend it the right way, by opening that issue, have a little discussion first. So if that's something that you are thinking of doing, please do that. Please engage with us first, and that can save both of us a lot of headaches, basically.
Yeah, and we'll be much more strict about this in the .NET MAUI toolkit. So what we'll do is every PR will have to have an issue that's already been approved. So if a PR opens up and we haven't had the discussion on it, we'll just put it on hold. We won't look at the code until we've discussed it, an issue, opened it up with the community, reviewed the API surface layer. And once we get to that agreement, then that's when we encourage you to start writing the code. But yeah, a lot of times we get PRs and they just kind of come out of nowhere, which not necessarily is a bad thing every time, but it does make for a lot more rework. So we want to try and streamline that a little bit. So yeah, open up an issue. If you'd like to add a new feature, we'll discuss it, we'll approve it, and then we can jump into the code. That way nobody has to waste any time writing code. And then
Everyone's
sometimes, we have to close a pull request every now and then. And that's never fun for anybody.
All right.
Yeah, that is true.
Sorry.
Oh, never mind. That's a great reminder, by the way. And moving further, we are almost done. We have this feature from CFun that is implemented full screen mode for Android. So this will be, right now, a platform-specific feature, but we are discussing how we can make this to iOS and Windows as well. So we will see how this goes, but for now, just for Android and all from the shared code. So this will be amazing. We have the calendar control, a contribution by Damian. And this is a pretty much big control, amazing control, just like the pop-up control was before. And that's will take a while. I will not promise that we will deliver this on the next stable release because we are discussing yet. And that's normal with big controls because it's a lot of code to review and things to consider. So yeah, but probably we will be there with this control.
You can see it's got 1,300 lines of new code that's coming in.
Yeah,
we're working on it.
For sure. We have this another feature that is a corner radius effect that is just allows you to control and make any control inside Xamarin Forms with corner radius, and you can control which corner do you want to be rounded, or all of them, or just one of them. And we are finishing the discussion on this one, and we will have this one merging soon. We have this another feature called the validation group of behavior, and this kind a way that we can validate a lot of properties at once, if I'm not wrong. So we can attach multiple validations behavior here. And so like if you have a password entry, for example, and we want to have a bunch of validations like length of the text, the characters that you input there, and you can now do this at once, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, we have this soon. And the last one, we have this another library that is the Comet. I know that everyone is excited about MVU stuffs, and if the Xamarin Community Kit will support, actually if the MAUI Community Kit will support the Comet framework for MVU. So Clancy have been pushing a lot of efforts to make our work easier. So this PR here is making that most of controls inside the Comet be class generated, so be generated by iSource generator feature from Roslyn. So that way we do not need to write a specific control for Comet, just writing a control for MAUI using that interface pattern. We will be able to port those controls inside the Comet. So that will save us a lot of times, and we will make sure to work with Clancy to make that work as the best way possible to make us able to deliver support to Comet at the day 0. So yeah, I believe that all these amazing PRs and issues and contributions, that is all that I have to show today.
Love it. And I've also, and there's nothing official about this. I'm not making any promises, but I have been chatting with Clancy about creating a Comet community toolkit. So probably something like Maui.comet or community toolkit / Maui.comet, something like that. But we'll see. Right now, Comet is just an experimental tool. It's not officially supported by Microsoft. It's something out there that we can all play around with. And I know I'm excited about it. Hopefully other folks are. And so we'll get to that after we get the Maui community toolkit up and running. Right now, all of our focus is going to be on the .NET Maui community toolkit, though.
Absolutely. So Michael is about that, also noting in the chat, like, hey, part of what I'm looking over here because my screen that everything's on is over here. Part of what we've been working on is a process for community toolkit labs, so that you have a place where you can put your stuff first. Like, the thing that I just mentioned, kind of like where you mature your controls a little bit, also what we've been doing in the Xamarin community toolkit. But this is kind of a step before merging it also into the community toolkit, where you can mature your thing, your idea a little bit, your control, or whatever other thing you might have thought up. And, we can go back and forth on it and shape it up the way we want to before we are actually going to merge it into community toolkit. So that's something that we'll be hearing about in the future as well, hopefully. All right, what do we have more? Looking at my show notes right here, I think Javier is going to talk a little bit about the .NET MAUI toolkit progress and the to-do items for the upcoming pre-release. And after that, we still have Brandon, who is also going to talk a little bit about the markup bits. Then we have a Q&A when we're already out of time, probably. So we'll see who has to drop off and who is still here. But, we're just gonna make it a fun meeting. Javier, take it away.
Let's go. So let's go a little bit about the community toolkit progress, but before jump directly to the community toolkit new repository, that's an amazing thing, and about the Maui community toolkit, let me talk very quickly about the Xamarin community toolkit Maui Compact thing. So, well, we explained a little bit about that, and yeah, the idea is mostly reuse everything from the Xamarin Community Toolkit, changing some namespace and adding a few chains to allow you to use mostly everything very quickly without big change. So the small change that you will need to do are two ones. One of them will be something like this. So now .NET MAUI is support locked. So to use .NET MAUI, you only need to use the use MAUI flag in the properties of your project, and that will include in the reference in every platform the necessary frameworks to use the MAUI core, MAUI controls, etc. And then we will include something pretty similar to this, configure something.
Sorry to interrupt, Javier. Can you zoom in the text a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Let me know. So we will include some extension methods to the apps host builder. This is a new concept that we introduced in .NET MAUI, the startup class with the configure method. This uses a method where you configure your application, you register your service, you configure your handlers, your fonts, etc. And yeah, the idea is have something like configure Xamarin Community Toolkit that where we will allow you to do the registrations of the renderers and the registration of the effects. And why we need that? Just because, let me move very quickly to use the renderers in .NET MAUI. We can just reuse everything, but we only need to register a compatibility render in the apps host builder. The idea behind this configure extension method is just do everything for you. You only need to write a line to configure the everything related with the Xamarin Community Toolkit, and we will register all the effects, all the renderers, and that's the only thing a little bit different that you will need to do to reuse everything with the MAUI Compact package. And yeah, after talk about that, let's jump very quickly to the MAUI Community Toolkit. So now we are sharing the Community Toolkit with the Community Toolkit organization, where You can find also the Windows Friends and other toolkits, and that's really excited. This is the new place for the upcoming community toolkit. And jumping a little bit to the code, we are porting code from the toolkit to the new community toolkit by blocks. So we ported all the converters, we ported all the behaviors, and very soon you will find ported all the effects too. So as previously, I think that Gerald and also Brandon mentioned it, this will include some more important breaking chains, mostly because we have some stuff in the Xamarin Community Toolkit related with, for example, MVVM, like async commands and other paths that, of course, we are going to sync and reuse and share code with Windows Toolkit, and we are going to, use work as sharing as one common library with common stuff. And well, we still need to progress in this part, but of course there will be some more important breaking chains. But the project structure will be very similar to the Xamarin Community Toolkit. You will find in the repository a solution with the toolkit and the unit tests, etc. You can find here that we have mostly exactly the same code for now because the APIs are pretty close. So this is a behavior, and we have all the bindable properties and all the same stuff that we have mostly in the same way that we have in the Xamarin Community Toolkit. And we ported also all the converters, of course, also creating all the unit tests, etc. By the way, for the unit tests, we are discussing and talking about the idea of include device tests. That we did that in Maui, in .NET Maui, by the way, and I think that it's working pretty well. Just using that also with C and pasting some device tests in some devices every time that we build the builds. But that's what you can find today. We also have another project like you can find in the Xamarin Community Toolkit with the sample. So in the sample project, you can find the toolkit, the other projects like unit tests, and also, of course, the sample project. This project use the new single project stuff from .NET Maui, where you set the target frameworks, and we have some nice things like the Maui Max, Plug Screen, etc., to manage all the resources in a single way, etc., etc. And the idea with the sample for now is use an evolution from the Xamarin Community Toolkit. So you can see here what we have so far. So we wanted to have something from the beginning, from the announcement of the unification and moving to the Community Toolkit organization, to allow anyone to use sync the repo and be able to launch the samples and play, for example, navigate to behaviors and navigate, for example, to the event to command behavior. And we have here exactly the same samples that we had before in the Xamarin Community Toolkit. So this will grow up and evolve a lot in this month. As I said, we are going to port and include code by functionality blocks. The next thing will be FX. We was waiting to the last preview of Xamarin Forms to have FX support. Then probably we are going to port all the share controls that inherit from the content view, that don't have any custom renderer. And finally, we are going to port the custom renderers to handlers. And by the way, in the same repo, we plan to include some information in the wiki, like I have for now in this private repo, like this, where I have some information about how to port code from Forms to Maui, and what are the necessary changes, what are the namespaces that are changing, etc. And we plan to include this to allow everyone that want to contribute to find a easy way with the Community Toolkit namespace and know how can port from the Xamarin Community Toolkit, or how can contribute porting, for example, any renderer that are using in their application, or anything that want to be included in the toolkit. So that's one of the ideas that we have. And finally, the application will probably grow up. There are some very really nice ideas in the Windows Community Toolkit sample app. So there are, for example, in the Getting Started page, some really nice information with the release notes, with links to the, for example, contribution wiki, etc. And then it's similar in the navigation. There are some sections you navigate to controls, etc. So yeah, I think that we are going to align more our samples with the Windows Community Toolkit stuff, and that's what we have so far. So for now, convert test behaviors, and really soon you will find effects and the shared controls, the controls that inherit from content view or template view.
Sounds good. Javier, to put a bow on that for the folks in the community that are watching, where can they help right now? If somebody's saying, I want to open up a pull request to .NET MAUI toolkit, and I want to port a control, should they do that?
Yeah, well, our idea initially was to port as quickly as possible everything and allow to have, a core with many of the stuff ported. But of course, we can discuss that internally and create, for example, some community issues that everyone can pick, can select. I want to port, for example, the tab view, and we can have a specific issues with tags describing everything, what are the expected thing that we require to approve this work. Of course, port the code, include the sample, include some tests, etc. And we can do that. Of course, we can prepare everything to allow everyone to contribute now. So we only need to prepare a little bit the repository with some issues and organize a little bit some things. But I think that we can have that ready really soon. So yeah, I'm excited that people want to contribute as soon as possible. So definitely we can prepare it.
Sounds
Just
good
to add to
too.
that real quickly, I think, that's an important thing that you touched upon there. Like, a lot of people are approaching me like privately, like, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? Then I go out to the team, or I, just make a call like, yes, let's do it. No, let's not do it. But I think, what is more importantly, if it's about work for the community toolkit, make sure that it is in the public, right? So open a discussion, open an issue, so that everyone knows, where to find the information for that regarding the toolkit. And everyone can see the status. If there is an issue like, hey, I'm going to port the media element, then we can see it's assigned to this person. Nothing has happened for 30 days, so maybe someone else needs to take over. There is some, all the information is there. So we can just open that up, see what is going on there. And I think that's kind of like the important thing to do here, like, put everything in one place, public, for everyone to see, so we can track the progress.
Absolutely. And by the way, it's the same that we did in .NET MAUI. So in .NET MAUI, at the time that we have some level of stuff completed in the core that allow anyone to use follow other handlers and know how to follow other handlers to port code from renderers to new handlers, etc. We created specific issues to allow anyone in the community to help and contribute, of course. And I think that we are pretty close here to do something in the same way. We just need to prepare everything, create issues, and allow to open conversations and allow anyone that wants to contribute to do it.
Sounds great. Well, we are at the top of the hour. We're still going strong, but we totally understand if anybody needs to drop off, or actually if anybody here also needs to drop off. But I'm going to keep going because next up we are talking about the MAUI.markup. So the .NET Community Toolkit also has a C# markup library. If you're not familiar with this, it's the same library as the C# markup extensions that were experimental, included in Xamarin Forms, and then we broke those out into Xamarin Community Toolkit.markup library, and we're bringing all that to .NET MAUI Toolkit as well. Probably the biggest difference you'll notice is this is in its own repo. So like Javier was showing a minute ago, we have the community toolkit org, And here is the Maui code that Javier is just showing off. And markup is now in its own repository. We found that there tends to be more new features added to the Xamarin Community Toolkit than there is the Xamarin Community Toolkit markup extensions. So we figured let's break them out. They don't need to be on the same release schedule. They don't depend on each other. These are kind of two separate tools, two separate NuGet packages. But so you can find all the code here. And the good news is it's basically ready. We went ahead and we created the first release. This is also where we haven't published it to NuGet yet, but if you are just chomping at the bit to try it out, this library, you can check out the first NuGet package here. You'll have to download it manually and add it in for now, but this will be up in NuGet later this month.
While we're here anyway, there's a typo. It says community toolkey.
Oh no!
Yes, let's
fix it live. Good catch. So this is pretty cool, and I want to show you. I have this app here. We should share. Let's drop the link to the markup library in the comments, and then I have an app here that I made that uses this. That we'll drop in the comments as well. So this is an app I made in Xamarin Forms, and if you know me, if you follow me, you know that I do all my Xamarin Forms stuff in C#. I never use XAML. Mostly because I never used XAML in a previous life. So when I started my career at Xamarin and learning Xamarin Forms, I was like, well, I'll just keep using C#. And you totally can. I think that's one of the best kept secrets with Xamarin Forms is you don't have to use XAML. All the controls you know and love in XAML are also available via C# as well. So if you're like me and you love C#, then you should check out the C# or the .NET Community Toolkit Maui markup library because it allows you to do cool things. This is a .NET Maui app, and here we have a refresh view. Inside that refresh view is a collection view, and where the Maui.markup extensions come in are these methods right here: .assign, .bind. So you can see right now I created a variable for my. Let's zoom in a little bit. Created a variable for my collection view called collection view. And I also bound the collection view's item source property to my view models collection. And then here I'm binding the refresh views. The refresh views is refreshing property and the refresh views command property. And so we get this nice fluent syntax for creating our UI. So if you are interested in creating your UIs in C# and you want to continue doing that in .NET Maui, no worries, because you'll have the .NET Maui Community Toolkit markup extensions NuGet package ready for you. And with all the stuff we've been talking about today, all of this will be pushed up to NuGet later this month. So stay tuned. First pre-release is coming here in August. They're not going to be totally complete. The Maui Community Toolkit NuGet package will give you what we got so far, basically. But it's going to be a work in progress as both .NET Maui continues to update and evolve, and also as we carve out the time, because none of us get paid to do this. We are doing this out of our kindness, the love in our hearts that we have for .NET Maui and for the community. So as we release the pre-releases, you'll find more and more features in the .NET Maui Community Toolkit. And then the first official release, first non-pre-release, that'll go live in November alongside .NET 6, alongside .NET Maui. So stay tuned and join us here every month too. We'll be talking about all this stuff every month and talk about our progress as well.
Absolutely, that's why we're doing this. Yeah, I think we covered most of it. So we are now on our Q&A, but we've been doing, because we're with many people here, so we've been kind of doing the Q&A on the side in the chat here. But if you have any questions, now is the time to do so. Bring them to us, and else I think if there's nothing really coming, it's about time that I go to bed, because it is over 10 p.m. here, way past bedtime.
Let's see.
So
Gerald, I saw there was a couple good discussions. I'm trying to scroll back in the comments to find them. Shout them out if you remember. I see Javier, you answered a couple questions, and Gerald, you answered a couple questions. It'll be good to shout them out here on the stream in case somebody isn't able to read the comments.
absolutely.
No, but we receive a lot of really nice feedback. Like, for example, if we are going to sync the requirements with the Windows team, if we are going to require documentations or things like if we are going to open the discussions and issues to allow to contribute as soon as possible to the community in the NetMaui community toolkit. So yeah, really nice feedback. So far, I'm just talking to some time to receive more questions. So if you have any questions, now it's a good moment.
I see one from Jose asking about WinUI. Jose, that might be that. Oh,
What?
Jerry, I was gonna say it might be because he's on a Mac. I've seen that error on my Mac, and I just have to ignore the WinUI project on my Mac OS.
No, I think I know what this is. So let me actually. I don't have my screen shared anymore, but let me see if I can pull up the link real quickly. Because I think this has to do with because there's so many moving parts, so we're kind of going off script and off community toolkit here. But all the different products that are in preview right now, Visual Studio 2022, Project Reunion, or what are we supposed to call it? Window, I don't know what we're supposed to call it now. .NET MAUI, those are all separate teams. Visual Studio for Mac is a separate team as well. And I think this error that you're seeing here, so let me read it out loud. Maybe Brandon already did. I'm using .NET MAUI, using .NET 6 Preview 6 in Visual Studio 2022, but I got the error. The project doesn't know how to run the profile MAUI Preview 6.winUI. I think this has to do that you have to have the latest single project extension installed on Visual Studio 2022. Like I said, I'll pull up the link whenever I stop talking, and I'll put that in the chat. I think that's it. See, Javier is already saying that too. Yes.
Yeah, so I will suggest to use the MAUI check tool to see if there are something pending related with .NET 6. Probably it's not related with that because it's failing with WinUI. Then review if Project Reunion is correctly installed, the Project Reunion extension. And finally, check the Visual Studio version and if you have everything with the latest bits. And if not, feel free to send us or send me an email with the exception, and we'll be more than happy to see if we can find the error.
Right on. Yeah, and I see, let's see, El Snako mentioned you also did all your controls in C# and Xamarin Forms. Awesome. I do too. But you regret it because of the lack of hot reload. I hear you. I feel the same pain because I'm in the same boat as you. But yeah, hot reload is available in Visual Studio 2022. So you're probably using Visual Studio 2019 or Visual Studio for Mac 2019. If you jump over to a PC, you can download a preview of the next version of Visual Studio. It's only available on Windows right now. It's Visual Studio 2022. And that has C# hot reload baked into it. I was literally just using it yesterday. So just like XAML hot reload, you'll be able to debug and run your app. And while it's running, you'll be able to edit your C# code and see those updates live. So feel free to check those out. And I'll give out the caveat where there's still certain things that act a little funny in C# hot reload, but it's still in preview. The team's actively working at it right now. We just we get a taste of C# hot reload in Visual Studio 2022, available on PC. Download it today.
So another thing, I see Ali Karimi asking now, in Visual Studio 2022, I'm not able to add migration to SQL Server. Do you know why? So I would love to help each and every one of you, but I think this kinds of needs to be focused on at least .NET MAUI bits and even more so on the Community Toolkit bits. And so just to kind of make sure that we're not turning this into a Microsoft help desk basically here. Like I said, I'm not trying to be rude. I want to help each and every one of you, but there's already all kinds of knowledge bases and stuff where you can find these questions. I personally also don't know the answer to this particular question, so yeah, so kind of like what you're saying, Brandon. I wanted to maybe say a little bit, because I don't see any new questions, at least. Like how to reach us. I think we all have our Twitter handles, which is also the handle that you can find me everywhere else with. So you can find us probably on Twitter, at least, probably some other places as well. I just looked at the Discord server. Maybe someone can pull up the link to get into that, where I definitely, let's keep it with myself, need to check on more. We have a channel there which is called Xamarin Community Toolkit for now. Maybe we need to change that or do something else. But also, like, the same thing, unifying kind of like the ways to communicate with us, because you can imagine that we are getting messages privately, here, there, through email, which is all fine. Again, I would love to answer all of you, but there's a lot of you and there's just one of me, unfortunately. So it's a lot at times. And again, also here, if your question is not something very secret or whatever, I can understand that it can be intimidating to ask it out in the public. What will people think? I was there, but people won't be rude or whatever, and if they are, we'll tell them not to do that. So just, you probably want to ask your questions like in the most public place that you can, so that you're not waiting for me or for Brandon or for Javier or Andre or Pedro, because we go on vacation as well, or maybe something else happens and we're not available for you to answer that question. So put it in a public place where other people can go into your question as well, and they might have some other ideas. So that's just one thing that you might want to do. The link to the Discord server, I see that has appeared in the chat as well, so definitely go check that out. That might be the right place to actually come into contact, besides, of course, like the repository that we're actually working on.
Yeah, feel free to open up a discussion anytime on the .mi repo. All right. I see the questions are slowing down. It's probably time for us to sign off and bid adieu.
Like .NET Foundation, is the invite expired for the Discord link that we just posted? So that might be something. But we'll new invite coming in. That new link will be posted. I know there's also a kind of like nice link, the aka.ms link, which will never expire. So we might tweet that out on one of our accounts. So just make sure to follow every one of us. And yeah, I think we're done here. So like we've already mentioned, we're planning on doing this every month. We might not be here all the time with everyone, because we have lives too. It might not look like it at once, but we do. So we'll see how it goes. I hope you liked this first instance. We've talked a lot about like where we came from, what the history is. Next time we'll have more time to focus on like where are we going, what are the actual PRs that we have open, and I think the thing that people are most excited about, like how is it going with the .NET Community Toolkit, because that is the thing that we're achieving and that we're working towards to make that awesome for you, for us, for everyone. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll hope to see you next month.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much also, Andre, Javier, Brandon, Pedro, for joining us, for doing all this wonderful work. Thank you so much.
See you next month.